Welcome to the El Dorado County Historical Museum on Main Street, Placerville. This is the Tallman Soda Works building originally that was then deeded to the Historical Society. The Society is accepting membership. We're interested in representing the history of Placerville. This building was constructed in 1852, so it's one of the last remaining old buildings on our main street from the early days. My name is Heather. I'm 6 generations Placerville. We came 1867. We had a business on Main Street as well, a big foundry. So I'm more than happy to do tours here in the building. We're representing the Gold Rush era, but also stories of prominent citizens and businesses here on our main street in Placerville. Welcome and come. We're now open Thursday through Sunday, 12 to 4. Authors. These are stories of note in our county. The Gold Rush, outlaws, I always say good boys, bad boys, and good girls and bad girls. So this is children's books as well. We have indigenous people's stories. We have videos, DVDs here of the old logging railroads and the Gold Rush itself. We actually show, and trails, kind of fun books that are new books on the market. We show over here on this wall the books done by the Historical Museum, so those are new and different, and we're working now on a book on mining in El Dorado County, so that's next to come. But those are good traditional resources for El Dorado County history. Some of our docents are authors as well, so we have books from them, different subject matter, and children's books, so lots of fun things for kids. Over here you have artifacts that have been found left over from the Gold Rush era, and this is along the trails or on people's property. So these are some weapons and cooking utensils. It was very primitive, and certainly why would women leave civilization as they knew it in Boston, Chicago, and New York to come out here to dirt and misery and disease and what have you. But anyway, there's that question. This is this particular building was a soda bottling works. They would bring water from the hill behind this wall through that hole, bring it through the French carbonating machine here, and then add the carbonation, add color and flavor, but no sugar. And then they would sell that to the locals because you couldn't drink out of the creek because that was rather polluted with not only animals and people and what have you. But here is the actual early days Fountain and Tallman soda bottles that they would put that soda in. This is a little display of the indigenous peoples that were here, the Maidu, Miwok, and Washoe tribes, 5,000 years or more. These are samples of their trade baskets that were used to generate income to be able to supplement with purchase of food. The white man was taking their food. There's that story. But these are family histories in those designs of these baskets. Primarily they used willow and redbud to fashion the baskets. If you have a tightly woven basket, you can immerse that in water and it will become somewhat watertight. You see the little girl in the picture there having her bath in a little basket. But this is mortars and pestles, arrowheads or points that were all found locally. And then mining artifacts. So this is old gold pans and We have a little jelly press here, but that could also be to press grapes for wine. Basically, you have old mortars and representative not only placer mining, which is in the water, but hard rock mining in the mountains. Pieces of quartz, which is where gold likes to hide, so the quartz is important for the discovery of gold nuggets. In this case, we have a number of stories here. These are artifacts left from the gold rush era that have been found locally. The story about Mrs. Wakefield. She was a gal in this community that wanted to file for divorce, and the state of California wanted $12,500 from her to file for divorce in California. She didn't have that, but she knew how to make pies. So her friends convinced her to charge 5 times what those pies are worth, and they then eventually took care of business. We have Mrs. Zeiss just up the street. Her husband went back to Germany to visit his family, never came back. Left her with 10 children. I've been told she put her kids in the warm months in tents out the back side of the house and rented every single room in that house, including closets and cellars. And so eventually she was able to parlay that over. She knew how to make beer. She got hops from somebody in Sacramento, became the famous Zeiss Brewery up here in this community here. And then one of our exhibits here on firefighting in the 1850s. We're certainly sensitive to that subject matter nowadays, and that is all volunteer fire department. You had a big bell that rang at the bell tower, and this is from the old fire station, which is what we affectionately call our ketchup, from the ketchup and mustard buildings right here on Main Street. A small representation of artifacts from the Chinese population that was in Placerville. They were laying a lot of black powder and dynamite in our area for opening up mines, but also they blew holes in our mountains to take the Transcontinental Railroad through here originally. They had their Joss house and their temple where the post office parking lot is now. I've been told that their families often were in the Sacramento or northern California area if they left San Francisco and they were doing farms and ranches, but the papas would stay here and became merchants and what have you as well. Sold opium. I've heard that they would give you fair price on the price of gold. If you wanted, the little kids would trade their gold into some of their elders here, and they would give them a fair price on that gold. So we were very diverse in the early days. Everybody was an immigrant, so the attitudes towards diversity were pretty open. This is artifacts from the Kembellic family. This is end of an era. That was the finer dressed custom clothing for men and boys. Neat picture here of the first delivery of Levi jeans that came into Placerville via wagon from San Francisco. So that's kind of fun. And of course, Mr. Kembellic's actual tuxedo here that he wore in 1918, his wife's dress as well. But this has become an interesting subject for the tourists because we don't do formal wear anymore. No more dressing up for proms or weddings. Everything is very casual now. So that's, and this is Mrs. Tracy, Stella Tracy. She had a shoe store here on Main Street, but she was part of the Ralston family. That's Comstock load money. They own the Palace Hotel in San Francisco, etc. Her mother was an opera singer. There's her picture up there on the middle over the cabinet. That's Mrs. Ralston. And she got to travel with her mother for opera engagements. She married Mr. Tracy here. His store is where the Heyday restaurant is now. And they did custom shoes for people. They did, she did beautiful handiwork, so that was her claim to fame with needlepoint and crewel stitchery, etc. This is some of the baby clothes from her baby picture here of her era. So we let people kind of get up close and personal with some of these older pieces that have been made by family members, etc. for the layette for the babies. That's an interesting subject nowadays. Young parents often don't want used things on their babies, and so that's maybe something of the past. But there's tatting and crochet and beautiful lace making. This is Mrs. Tracy's china setting, and that would be for one person. And so that's beautiful Limoges porcelain, that's Waterford crystal, Fostoria stemware, and Wallace sterling. The pretty. 18 karat gold on those plates. She could have put 10 people at her table, so that was, again, another novelty because we rarely see a formal table anymore. This is Lulu Weatherwax's oil paintings. Now, she was a renowned artist here locally that Mrs. Tracy helped was a patron of. And there's a picture of Lulu just to your right there holding the little puppy in that picture. And her friend, Bine Ingham, that ran the Mountain Democrat newspaper. So they were movers and shakers in the community. This is the Tracy's shoe store, and again, they would make custom shoes for people. So that was kind of unique there. Because before 1900, your left and right shoe were exactly the same. You just bought two of the same shoe and broke them in. Well, the Tracys could help you with foot pain and do custom shoes for you. So that is of that era. This is a beautiful traveling trunk here. So this is what they call a camelback trunk. And this would have come around the horn on the big ships. The well-to-do people would have a trunk like this, where you have your hats, you have a compartment for books and belts and shoes. The camelback trunk was humped, and for the most part the well-to-do people had that trunk. The average Joe just had a flat top trunk, and they stacked them 30 high in the holes of the big ships and put a big camelback trunk on the very top because she would keep her china and crystal in that first compartment there. This is a traveling suit from the 1880s. That's all silk. This had 7 different pieces to it. And as you see a little pocket back in here, that was used for her Derringer pistol. Had 1 bullet. You'd use it on yourself or your assailant, whatever the better odds were. And this is a particularly beautiful one. That's 7 pieces, 1880s, all silk. And it would have been worn as your wedding dress as well, because before 1900, Queen Victoria, of course, started the first white wedding dresses. So you would wear your special traveling suit for your wedding suit at that time. This is a fun exhibit here on delivery systems, and that's the beginnings of milk delivery here. Stainless steel, pasteurization, homogenization all happened turn of the century, as did Model T trucks. So that took you away from having to have old Bessie the cow out in the yard behind the house, and they would deliver milk to your house and bill you accordingly. They had ice that they brought down from Ice House, so that could be delivered as well. So this is really quite a fun little exhibit that we've been able to showcase how many dairies in our county alone up there on that map. So there were quite a number of those, and the old names from the Veer camps to whatever had dairies. So that's part of that. This is our Hangtown Band, and of course we speak to that in parades because we only have but one parade anymore and no town band. My family started the first marching bands in Placerville. My great-great-grandpa's in the picture at the top. Great-grandpa in the next picture. My grandfather's playing the same trumpet that his great-great-grandpa blew at Gettysburg as a bandmaster, and then later days. So kind of talking to the fun of music with parades and dances and what have you. The fact that we no longer have a town band is the end of an era there. But fun memories. This is the old switchboard from the Carey House Hotel. So that one is fun to talk to young people about, that they've only ever seen smartphones, that is a different way to communicate and how that worked with party lines, etc. And the fact that this gal was kind of a gossip and she could listen in on your calls, and so she could report that to the newspaper and what have you. There's the Pony Express Trail up there. That's a map we sell here. That is kind of fun. That one is boys 18 years old or younger, 120 pounds or lighter, orphan boys only, taking mail from Sacramento to St. Joe, Missouri, non-stop. And it only went a very short amount of time with the Transcontinental Railroad. When it hooked in 1869, then mail came that way. Here's a fun little exhibit of the Coca-Cola bottling company right down here at the end of Main Street where the Pearson Soda Works is. That is, these are actual Placerville Coca-Cola bottles. So that was 1930s to the 60s, and a little claim to fame. Some children have never even tasted Coca-Cola. Their parents are rather healthy. Yeah, they look at that kind of thing, what is that? Anyway, bottles, there's medicine bottles where Mama was the doctor in the family. You had all kinds of stories, clay pipes, and these are the old oyster shells left over from the Hangtown Fry that was a feature in many of our hotels. Oh, this is the Society here. Society owns this building. And still in existence. One of the few buildings that didn't burn down with the number of fires that we had in the 1850s on Main Street because it was made out of a rock rubble construction. Colorado County Railroad, the Placerville branch of the Southern Pacific Railroad. When that came into town in 1888, that changed everything. Certainly my great-great-grandfather had a foundry here on Main Street, and so he got to move things in and out by railroad. This is our little El Dorado Western Railroad schedule, and that one is south of our town, between Shingle Springs and El Dorado. That is an ongoing venture with a number of volunteers that are restoring the old train cars and give rides to the tourists on Sundays. We'd like to have that open up to 7 days a week, and we'd like to have a train museum there, so we think that that's a possibility in the future. So railroading, thanks to Thomas the Train, kids are still interested in railroading. They don't see mining, they don't see timber or logging, but they see trains and they like that. So there's our future right there. Well, thank you. Hey, fun.